He's a local product. He went to LaSalle High School. He also went to the seminary at St. Charles Borromeo Seminary. He's been a longtime friend of Discovery. Please welcome Bishop Joseph Coffey.
Thank you very much. You put that in there.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. I would like to begin by thanking Monsignor Mike. Thank you very, very much. We've heard a lot about what you've been doing these last 50 years. I, too, want to thank you for all you've done for me. I'm going to get a few minutes later, I'll tell you how I met Father Mike and things like that. But I said to Father Mike, well, what should I talk about? I'd like to talk about Discovery House. And he said, no, there's going to be other people telling about Discovery House, but just tell us some things about yourself. So these are orders from Father Mike, okay? So I'm Bishop Joe Coffey with the Military Archdiocese. And don't worry if you've never heard of that or don't know what that means. What that means is everybody who's Catholic in our military, Army, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard, Space Force, Marine Force, while you're in the military, you belong to the Military Archdiocese. And as you know, we have military bases all over the world. So geographically speaking, it's the largest archdiocese in the world. So we have Archbishop Timothy Broglio as our military archbishop. He's headquartered in Washington, D.C., and he's also the president of the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops. So he's got a very large collateral duty. And he has 4 auxiliary bishops who help him. Bishop Spencer covers all the bases east of the Mississippi River. Bishop Buchan covers our military bases west of the Mississippi. Bishop Bill Mumm lives in Germany. He covers our U.S. bases in Europe and Asia. So he's covering 10 time zones. And I have all of the veterans hospitals in the U.S. We have over 150 veterans hospitals around the country. And I have the great pleasure of traveling around our country, visiting our veterans hospitals. So I too am a veteran, having served 28 years in the Navy, 9 in the Reserve, 19 on active duty as a Navy chaplain. And I'd like to give a shout out and ask all the veterans to please stand to be recognized. Thank you very much for your service. And my official title is I'm the Vicar for Veterans Affairs. So now you know who your vicar is, right? So just to tell you a few things about my vocation stories, I grew up in Philly in Bala-Cynwyd, St. Matthias Grade School, Archbishop John Carroll High School in Radnor near Villanova, and LaSalle College. And then I went to St. Charles Borromeo Seminary in Philadelphia. But before I got to the seminary, I had a little detour because I didn't know I was supposed to become a priest till the age of 30. So I'm kind of a late vocation. So after the seminary, after college, I had a couple of really cool jobs. My first job is I was a school teacher in St. Catherine of Siena in West Philadelphia. I taught 5th grade for the whole year. I lasted the whole year. And the principal was Sister Winifred. And she used to say to me a couple times, Joe, I think you're going to become a priest. I said, oh, sister, thank you, but I don't think so. I found out later that she told the female teachers, hands off Mr. Coffey. He is not available. 14 years later, she was at my first Mass. So anyway, after that one glorious year of teaching, I then was a ski instructor in Switzerland. Not a bad place to be a ski instructor. Great snow there. That lasted a whole season. And then I stayed in Europe. And for the next 5 years, I sold Japanese cars to American soldiers in Germany. That's a great preparation for the priesthood, right? And I just loved it, traveling around and everything. And then In 1988, my life changed very dramatically. And I think when we look back on our lives, we can really pick a couple of key moments where our lives changed dramatically. What changed for me was when I looked into the International Herald Tribune and I saw an article written about, it said 500 people arrested in Cherry Hill, New Jersey for what they called a rescue, a pro-life demonstration. And I found out my sister was one of the ones arrested. And I couldn't believe it. She's the least likely one in my family. So I found out that she was part of this group called Operation Rescue. They sit in front of the abortion clinic. They pray the rosary. She said it was peaceful and nonviolent. I came home from Europe, talked to my sister, I was now in Belgium, and my heart was troubled. I knew I had to come back to America. I wasn't sure what I was going to do or why I was coming home. That was September the 1st, 1988. 10 days later, I got arrested in Delaware for pro-life. It was peaceful. It was nonviolent. We just sat in front of a clinic door, prayed the rosary, asking our sidewalk counselors to let the women know that there's help available. So the next 2 years, I got very involved with that whole rescue community. And on Good Friday of 1989, my mother got arrested with 8 of her kids, including me. She said it was one of the best days of her life and one of the funnest days I've ever had. If you've never gotten arrested with your mother, it's unbelievable. So I ended up going to a retreat at Malvern Retreat House. If you've never been there, it's very beautiful. It's the largest lay-run retreat house in the country. And I knelt down in front of a statue of Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, and that's where it hit me, that I was supposed to become a priest. So I went home, I told my mom and dad, they started crying, I started crying. It was very emotional, because I'd been running from it for 30 years and didn't even know I was running from it. So Monsignor Murray, the rector of the seminary, said, "Joe, you can come to the seminary, but you have to stop getting arrested." He said, "All right." So when I was in the seminary, I met a recruiter for the Air Force Chaplain Candidate Program. And he told us all about this program, which is if you're already in graduate school, you have your college degree, you can raise your right hand, say the oath of office, and you become an officer in the military. It's called the direct commissioning. And I was asking him all kinds of questions, and he was ready to sign me up. Then I had to ruin his day. I said, "Father," he was a priest, "Father, that sounds great, but does the Navy have a program just like it?" And he goes, "Yeah, the Navy program's in San Diego." I said, "Father, I'm going to San Diego." But the reason why is because my dad had been in the Navy as a doctor, and my little brother, Jim, was in the Navy. He had gone to Villanova, ROTC, and he was now in San Diego on a frigate. So I went off to San Diego for the summer, loved it, and I stayed in the reserve for the next 9 years. I got ordained in 1996. I spent 5 years as a priest in Philadelphia, loved being a parish priest. Weddings, baptisms, funerals, had a big school, 700 kids in the school. St. Catherine of Siena, Northeast Philly. Loved it. And then I wrote my letter to the bishop, Cardinal Bevilacqua. I said, "Cardinal Bevilacqua, I love being a parish priest, but I think I'd also really enjoy being a Navy chaplain on active duty. Would you let me go?" I wrote my letter in January, didn't hear a thing for 3 months. I knelt down in front of the Blessed Sacrament and said, "Lord, I love being a priest, but I think I'd also like to be a priest in the Navy as a chaplain. But whatever you want, I'm okay with that." The next day, I got the letter from the bishop saying I could go on active duty. So I went off to Camp Johnson, which is near Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, for my training with the Marines. I was going to go on my first tour of duty with the Marines in Okinawa, Japan. And we're coming out of the gas mask drill. All you veterans remember how much fun that is. It's quite horrible. You're all disoriented because you've got gas in your face. And they came running out of the classroom screaming at us to get in the classroom. And we could tell this was not normal screaming. We went into the classroom, and on the television set was 9/11 happening. Now, all you guys, except maybe young people out there, You remember exactly where you were when that happened. I remember where I was with a group of brand new baby Navy chaplains going to go on active duty, and we're watching the World Trade Center come down. And I'll never forget the two things I was feeling: sick to my stomach and fear, because I was going to go to Okinawa, Japan, with the Combat Assault Battalion of the Marines as their chaplain. And I'm thinking, I might die. Because in our military's history, we've had chaplains that have died on the battlefield. Even though under the Geneva Convention, we're non-combatants, we don't carry weapons, but still, sometimes things happen. So I ended up doing 19 years on active duty. And you're probably wondering, why did you do 19 years and not 20? Aren't you all wondering that? Because everyone on the first day of boot camp knows you got to do 20 years to get your pension, right? Well, at 19 years, I got a phone call. Wasn't the Pope, but it was the representative, Archbishop Christophe Pierre, the nuncio. And he said to me, Father Coffey, the Holy Father has appointed you to be an auxiliary bishop for the military archdiocese. Do you accept? I was like, wow. It was totally out of the blue, completely and totally, because I was still on active duty. And I don't know what I said initially. I think I said something like, oh, it's such a surprise. He said to me a second time, Father Coffey, do you accept? And I knew that I could say no. That became clear to me. But I thought, well, if I say no, I better have a good reason why I'm saying no. I couldn't think of anything. But if I say yes, I knew my life just changed forever. So I said to him, can I think about it? Can I pray about it? Can I call Archbishop Bergoglio, the military archbishop, and can I call you tomorrow? I thought they were good questions. Father Coffey, do you accept? Oh, you're laughing, right? It wasn't funny for me. It was terrible. I was not prepared to give him an answer. It was too overwhelming. It was too overwhelming without any kind of notice. So I prayed. I said, Lord, I need some help right now. I need it right now. And it came to me that I'd read a book by St. Francis de Sales who said, seek nothing, refuse nothing. And that gave me peace. So I said, I accept. And that phone call was in January of 2019. March the 25th, 5 years ago, I was ordained an auxiliary bishop for the military archdiocese. And I get to travel all over America, visiting our great veterans in the veterans hospitals, working with the priest chaplains. And I love what I do, and I love having served as a Navy chaplain. But I do want to thank Monsignor Mike. I got to meet him very, very early in my priesthood when I got invited to be a priest at a Rachel's Vineyard retreat for healing for women who have made a terrible choice that they regret. And I remember meeting some women who had made a decision 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, which they deeply regretted. And we bring them healing, the love of God, the forgiveness of Jesus Christ. When the priest in the persona Christi can say, I absolve you of your sins. There's nothing like that. And Father Mike was an expert and gave retreats all over the world. He gave a retreat in Australia in healing ministry. So that's how I got to know Father Mike, through the healing ministry. And so I was able to go to Discovery House a couple times on retreats. A guy named Mark Halk, you may have heard that name. Mark has a couple of retreats for veterans, and I've been involved with that at Discovery House. So I just today want to thank all of you who have been involved. Any priest or religious sister or brother who helps lead retreats, lay people who lead the retreats, all you who have donated to that beautiful home, to the furniture, to the shrubs, the garden, all the benefactors. What you have all created in these last 50 years is truly beautiful. And I am a tiny little part of it, but we're all together working in this ministry. Thanks to that man right there. Let's give him a hand. So I said, Father Mike, how long should I speak? He said, about 15 minutes. That's 15 minutes. God bless.